I'm Eric Connor, and you're watching Working for Your Wallet on CBS 8 Plus. This week, we are taking a look at the top consumer headlines. We're going over ways to help you save some money. Well, the Federal Reserve is not budging on interest rates, citing solid hiring and easing inflation. For the third consecutive meeting, the Fed is holding rates steady at 4.25 to 4.5 after making 3 cuts in 2024. The impact from President Trump's tariffs is unclear, but Chair Jerome Powell has warned they will likely drive up prices and slow the economy. Holding rates steady is good for savers, but adds pressure to borrowers, like people with credit card debt. The next chance for a rate cut comes in June. Federal student loan collections have resumed. This applies only to borrowers in default, those who've missed payments for at least 9 months. More than 5 million borrowers are already in default, with millions more at risk. The Department of Education will start garnishing wages, tax refunds, and federal benefits. Borrowers can avoid this in 2 ways. One is loan rehabilitation, which is making 9 on-time monthly payments within a 10-month period, or loan consolidation. A new study finds that nearly 1 in 3 families here in San Diego struggling to make ends meet. The United Way's real cost measure finds more than 300,000 households countywide do not make enough to cover their basic living expenses. CBS 8's Richard Allen has a closer look.
There's conditions now that could definitely make it much worse.
This in-depth study by the nonprofit United Way examined data gleaned from all 58 counties in California from 2023, finding that statewide, 35% of households fall below what the United Way calls the real cost measure, what it actually costs to survive without struggling.
It's housing, it's childcare, but it's also healthcare costs, it's taxes. It sort of gives that broad view to really give an understanding of again, what it takes to be able to survive and thrive here in this region.
Here in San Diego County, 31% of households can't cover their basic needs. For example, a family with 2 adults, a preschooler, and a school-age child require more than $116,000 annually to get by, but 5,200 of those families fall short. James McConchy is Vice President of Collaborative Impact at the United Way of San Diego County.
Especially when you look at families with a preschooler, that cost of childcare increases substantially. And so that makes it just that much harder to make ends meet. So
for San Diego families with children under 6, nearly half of all households struggle. And that struggle is even more intense for households with only 1 adult. For instance, 70% of households countywide headed by a single mother fall below the real cost measure. McConchy points out there's a false perception that those families who can't afford basic necessities are either not working or not working enough.
That 97% of those below the real cost measure have at least 1 working adult.
To address this crisis, the study recommends making childcare more affordable, creating more no-cost and low-cost educational opportunities after high school, increasing affordable housing options, and expanding tax credits for families with kids. Currently, the state's child tax credit ends when a dependent turns 6 years old. The United Way study finds that more than 1 in 5 eligible families don't even claim this tax credit, which was designed to help lift families out of poverty.
When they're accessed, they can really help with that, but those who are not accessing them are missing out on those crucial resources.
Richard Allen, CBS 8.
A new report from Zumper ranks San Diego as the 10th most expensive city to rent an apartment. The price of a 1-bedroom apartment fell 3.4% this month. The average price is about $2,200. New York topped the list. A 25% tariff on auto parts is now in effect. This began on May 3rd. To ease the impact, the Trump administration is exempting some auto parts from a so-called double tariff, excluding them from a new tax on foreign metals. Automakers can also apply for price offsets as incentives to ramp up domestic production. Despite this, CNN analysis found the tariffs could add, on average, of $4,000 per vehicle. A tariff loophole that allowed websites like Temu and Shein to sell items at low prices has ended. We're talking about the tariff exemption for Chinese shipments worth $800 or less. Now an item sent via the postal system has a 120% duty or a $100 fee. Next month it will raise to $200. Both Shein and Temu say they raised prices a week ago to prepare for the loophole's end. This is all due to an executive action from President Donald Trump last month. Microsoft is increasing the prices on all physical Xbox products. That includes consoles, accessories, and games worldwide. The recommended retail price of an Xbox Series X now $600, up from $100. That's up $100. And the Xbox Series S device is now about $380 versus the previous price of $300. Even games will go up to $80. The company blames the price increase on market conditions following tariffs enacted by President Trump. Shoppers looking for a bargain, they're on the hunt. This comes after two big-name fast fashion retailers raised their prices due to tariffs. CBS 8's Esmeralda Perez shows us how those price hikes are sending more people in search of high fashion at lower prices.
Not just vintage finds that are drawing people to purchase secondhand items. Rising prices from inflation to import tariffs are playing a major role.
Shoppers looking to save every penny on clothes and accessories are turning to affordable options like secondhand items. Here at Flashbacks in Hillcrest, employees say foot traffic is up, with more people hunting for great finds on hats, dresses, and shoes without breaking the bank.
I'd say daily, it's probably a minimum of like 45 to 50 people that we wouldn't have had previously just walking around the shop.
According to the American Apparel and Footwear Association, in 2023, U.S. imports accounted for 97% of the country's apparel and footwear market. Last week, Shein and Temu increased their prices. The companies say operating costs have gone up and point to shifts in global trade rules and tariffs. In the meantime, local secondhand shops are seeing an uptick in shoppers come through their doors, including some that would generally shop at those sites.
Because right now is also festival season, a lot of the people that would generally be shopping on those sites for those festival fun pieces are coming here instead to find just as cool of pieces for way more affordable.
I met McKenna Sanchez as she browsed around the store. She says thrift store prices are going up too.
You go to a thrift shop now and everything is high priced as well, which is, I don't want to say unfair, but they definitely, I think, have people come in and price the things at a thrift shop as well because there's a bigger market for it.
And as a bonus for the environment, the more people buy secondhand, the less clothing and shoes that end up in landfills.
You are able to come up with more creative outfits by mending things together and keeping them out of the landfill like that. Also, just saving $1 anywhere you can.
Esmeralda Perez, CBS 8.
UPS is planning on cutting around 20,000 jobs this year in order to slash costs. That is about 4% of its global workforce. The layoffs are linked to the parcel company's decision to deliver less packages from Amazon, its biggest customer. UPS says it also plans to close more than 70 buildings by the end of June. The shipping giant says the move is not related to tariffs. If you're hoping to buy a home in San Diego, brace yourself. A new report says it could take nearly 3 decades to save for a down payment. The game plan in the past for home buyers was to put 20% down to buy a house and to not spend more than 30% of your income on housing. But as CBS 8's David Godfredson reports, those numbers are not working anymore in San Diego.
Housing is just really expensive in San Diego, and it's a serious problem for households.
With the median home price in San Diego County hovering around $900,000, it may take up to 29 years to save up enough money for a down payment, according to a new study by the credit firm Upgraded Points. Another recent study by Realtor.com says San Diego is the 4th most expensive market in the nation, meaning you would have to make more than $258,000 per year to afford a median-priced house.
That is what it costs to buy the median-priced home in San Diego.
USD economics professor Alan Jin says first-time buyers can always take aim at lower-priced homes or condos, making payments more affordable.
You know, that's the traditional way that people have navigated the housing market. They start off low, with a low-cost house, and they built up equity and traded up.
In coastal cities like San Diego, Jen says, moving up the chain makes sense.
I'm pretty confident that if you buy property in San Diego or other parts of coastal California, in the long term, it's going to be higher in terms of prices. Again, people want to live here.
The traditional formula to home buying was to put 20% down to avoid private mortgage insurance costs and to keep your mortgage payments around 30% of your income. but that's becoming more difficult.
In a high housing cost area like San Diego, you might have to exceed that 30% guideline.
Jin says another option is to rely on your parents.
Increasingly, people are holding on to their homes with the idea that they're going to leave them to their kids. And that might be the only way then that their kids are going to be able to afford to live in a place like San Diego.
The other thing that can make housing more affordable is lower interest rates, currently around 7% for a 30-year mortgage. That economist tells me it's possible interest rates could go down later this year, but it's hard to predict the economy. David Gottfredson, CBS 8.
Those are your top consumer stories making headlines. You can watch Working for Your Wallet on our streaming channel CBS 8 Plus, download on your TV, and watch for free.